Welcome to this episode of BEERA Sharp. Today, we're going to be speaking to someone quite special. If you're a young person and you've probably a fresh graduate or looking for work and you just don't know where to begin in this highly digitized environment, I have the guest for you. Pearl Gakazi is a Ugandan entrepreneur, and she's also the founder and CEO of Collaborate Platforms. It's a digital workforce and delivery company. And they build and manage African teams. They also deliver digital and business process services for organizations. How does that affect you? Through these models, Collaborate creates paid digital work for young Ugandans. Good news. They also provide clients in the structure and management and accountability required for reliable delivery. I mean, that's a mouthful. But there's more. She's also the founder of Prism, a marketing and business growth agency that has led work across the technology, implementation, workforce development, market expansion, and field operations for public institutions, development partners, and private sector organizations. Pearl is Ugandan. She went to school here. She studied Makerere University Business School, MUBS, and her perspective is grounded in being practical, real, and building companies in Uganda that will create jobs and develop talent right here in Uganda, navigating markets and designing systems that will enable businesses and institutions to deliver more effectively. Doesn't that sound like someone who should be your friend? Well, she's here. Hi, Pearl.
Hello.
It's great to have you.
Very happy to be here.
Welcome to what we are calling BEERA Sharp.
BEERA
Sharp. I was told that the R, there is no R in Luganda. It's BEERA Sharp. Just know I struggle.
It's an L between L and R. So it's not a hard R. Neither is it a hard L. So BEERA Sharp.
But Pearl, L is R in Luganda. R is L.
Well,
I always get lost.
But you've learned something today.
Yeah. I mean, listen, when you go down your CV, it's a little bit intimidating because I really wanted to have you on the podcast because it's as if you're like a step or two ahead of what the learning curve is in Uganda when it comes to digitization and understanding what the needs are for young people, especially in this business workforce. I talk to business people, many of them who are young. They say 51% of Uganda's current population is in informal sector. A lot of them are fallouts or graduates from formal institutions or tertiary institutions, many of them unskilled, and they don't know what to do going into the future. Mm-hmm. I hope I'm speaking for those young. I hope I've represented you well if you're out there. But Pearl, I guess maybe you can help us understand, like, what is the landscape out there like? Because all you hear is negativity. It would be great to hear some positive news.
Stuff.
Yeah. So what's going on?
So that's a very heavy question that you've posed, and a few good stats that you've mentioned. Over 50% in the informal sector, could probably be higher. And I don't think that's a bad thing per se to be in the informal sector, because in a country our size or at the growing rate that we are on, definitely organizations are going to be in the informal sector. But the question is, are they actively, gradually moving out of the informal sector, and are there regulations or systems supporting them to move out of that informal sector? But let's talk about the talent. So you said something very important, that a lot is changing, a lot is happening on the landscape. And that's true. So if you think about what's going on right now, we are in there is the advent of AI.
Yes, big time.
Our attention lifespan, or how long we can pay attention to something, has also shifted.
Sure.
We also outsourcing. We started outsourcing our emotional decision making or association to AI as well. So when you look at all those intersections, you think about where is the job market headed, or what are the jobs being created in such a time where it's not only about your digital morality, it's also about the psychological makeup of a worker today, right? So a worker today, and leave alone you and I have had a few times and years in the job market.
Yes.
So we might be a little exposed in knowing where the world is headed, not because we have all the data, but because we are currently in the work market and we're seeing the shifts happening. So how about this young person who's entering the work market? What's their direction? how do they make a choice of a type of job they're going to do? But what kind of skill do they need? I feel that those questions have become a little harsher on the younger people than they ever have been. And not because society doesn't care, it's because a lot is changing in a very shorter time than we are used to. So before our parents, maybe it could take them maybe 20 years before their chosen line of work changes.
Oh yeah, like they build towards
exactly,
like a formal job.
Yeah,
they start maybe as a junior person, and then they build
and
through the ranks.
There is a direction, you can see it, right?
A clear direction.
A clear direction. I'll argue even in our time, somewhat it's shifting in our time. But when you think about the Gen Z and even our younger babies, the alphas, when they get into work, it's going to be different. So what we are pushing for is, do you have digital skills? Are they transferable? But also, are you building a toolbox of different skills that put together you can deliver a certain desired piece of work, right? So let's assume you're a creator. Maybe you're a good narrator. You know how to narrate. Are you able to pick up maybe video editing skills?
Like a storyteller.
Yes, if you're a good narrator, you're a good storyteller.
Yes.
What other skill can you combine with your storytelling that maybe you can be a video editor? Maybe you can say, I'm going to be a social media manager. So what is that skill that you can build around? And why I'm saying that we are currently in the world of the skills economy. You're hired not so much for where you went to school. I mean, there'll be jobs where that is still the case if you're a doctor, a lawyer, but we're talking about the everyday skills, right? You're mostly going to be hired for your capacity and ability to deliver and your ability to learn. I mean, and don't get me wrong, Macquarie University, we still want kids to come to you. So don't get me wrong, we're not saying kids shouldn't go to school. You need school. You definitely need school. But what's that, how do you build the young person up after the formal education, after their Makerere or whatever university they've gone to, or even if it's a tertiary university, tertiary school? What do you do for this young person to begin acquiring skill sets that can be formidably usable, right, in the job market? So what we are observing, if we can create a very strong apprenticeship or internship program in the country, a very wide national-led space where any young person with any skill that they want to practice, they can log onto that portal and begin assimilations. They can begin assimilating into what a typical workspace would be. And this person could be somewhere in Kabera Maido, and their internship is virtually being delivered by Collaborate. We're already doing that. So for me, my question then goes back to anybody listening here. What is that skill you've always thought you could build or access? We are in the world of knowledge. So it's no longer special to know. Because right now I can just pull out my phone and I'll prompt something on any AI tool out there or Google, right? So knowing is no longer...
It's been democratized.
Everybody
has access to information,
right?
If they can.
Okay. And that's we need to circle back on that, because we're talking about Uganda. There's a sense of privilege for us to assume everybody has access to the knowledge, right? So let's bundle these groups of people separately. So there's a group of young people who have access to internet, a smartphone, a few mentors or people who have gone the journey before them.
Largely in these urban centers.
In the urban centers,
the cities,
yes. So my question is, if you have that internet connection, aside from watching your funniest comedian on TikTok, aside from watching what the girl boss or the boy boss is doing in today's time, what are you doing in terms of literally practicing on a skill? Because you can indeed access any knowledge or any form of practical training where someone is demonstrating online. So now let's talk about the second group that might have the desire, but they don't have access to the gadgets, they don't have access to the internet. So those ones are a little more complicated. And as a nation, we have to begin thinking, because the more the merrier. We are a very young nation, very brilliant, and this very hardworking, or what can I say, very active age, right? So this is, in my opinion, a capacity that the country can benefit from if that group of people that have the desire but don't have the access to the data or don't have access to smart gadgets, what can we do for them to transition them into that space?
Okay. Well, let me be the bad guy here for a second, because, parents or guardians work really hard to take these kids through formal education, and then a lot of these young kids start picking up maybe small odd jobs towards the end of their, I guess, into university and out of university, and then they're like, then what? So even if I learn a skill, I still need capital. I still need a place to, whatever you decide your little business is. I make soap. I still need a place to make that soap. I crochet. I still need to have a place and buy the materials that go into it. If they have a hardcore digital, for example, if they are selling ways to make, I don't know, a table, and it's a digital class, and they want you to tap into the digital class and watch how the process of making this table, and you pay for that, right? I think the big question is like, where does a young person begin? Because they're like, I have this brilliant idea. Maybe they've already been skilled and they may not have a lot of capital. What is your perspective in getting these kids to do rather than observe? Not so small kids.
Yeah. So there is about 3 parts in that question. The first thing I always like to say, and I hope I don't, at the risk of sounding a little out of touch, I don't think every problem is a capital problem, right? And of course, I'm speaking from a different perspective,
right.
But I always love to make that point, and I do hope I make a good case of it, because you could have access to all sorts of capital, but do you have the skill to sustain that capital, build more on it?
Of course.
Right? But number 2, why should I trust you with my capital? Right? And again,
it's a
playing
question.
bad guy, right? So it could be a development partner, it could be the government, it could be the bank, it could be impact investors.
Are you talking about small grants for business?
Yes. So let's assume you're saying, well, you made a case that, okay, he's a young person. Let's say he's James or Sharon.
Yes.
And they've got this lovely skill and they could put it to work. And your worry is, okay, so I have this skill, I am James, how do I get capital to utilize the skill to make maybe a table?
That's right.
And for me, my question is, because there is a cost of risk on capital, right?
Always.
So anyone's going to give you capital. It could be your mother. There's going to be that attachment, whatever that attachment is, and let alone maybe a development partner or let alone the commercial banks. They expect a certain level of organization. So why I'm saying all that is I want to lead us to the next point. There's so many hubs that have come up in the country. So many hubs that are focusing on youths, women, young men in peripherals of the urban areas.
And hubs affected. Meaning?
Oh, I'm talking about incubation hubs, acceleration hubs.
Like places where you can go that are collective, where you can use the facilities.
You could use the facility. We have the government, and I speak this way only because I know of these things, not because the government sends me any writings, because I'm in the space.
You are neutral.
Yeah, because I do participate in the space and I know a couple of things that I think young people might find useful.
Yeah.
So we have Yuri, for example, if you're manufacturing and you think you have an innovation in dairy or coffee or whatever it is, there's Yuri. And
okay, so that gap you're saying is somehow
being closed. Is being closed.
And so that can no longer be the solid excuse for you not to push forward in terms of like selling a service or a product, because in this case, there has been, not only are there hubs, but there is a skilling of young people, especially from a digital point of view. So let's say you do make whatever it is that you make, that, it can be seen by not just the people in your closest circle, but, you have these linkages either locally, regionally, or even internationally. So it's such an interesting time for young people because the options do exist, but sometimes they feel like it's being simplified. But if you ever get on TikTok, I don't know if you notice, a lot of people have a lot of negative things to say. I don't know, like, but how do you change that perspective? How do you let people know that through the work that you do at Collaborate, but also through these government interventions that you've been talking about, and organizations like CIPESA in making this podcast, BEERA Sharp, are really trying to tell young people that the excuses don't always fly. Like, look for the information. So
Yeah, Sophia, that's a very good question and a very good observation. And it's very important that we don't lessen the troubles of, first of all, generally the economy around the world, I believe, right, is struggling. So we are being hit, not Uganda alone, but it doesn't lessen my pain, right? Because an American doesn't have a job, or a person in the UK doesn't have a job. It doesn't.
Right. Administrative cuts.
Yes.
That
it doesn't matter.
over to
My
us.
problem is my problem. So
Right.
if I bring it back home here, the kids online or the young people online who are saying, oh, we don't have jobs, it's true. But I also want to argue that we need to become a little more open-minded in how we describe a job. Some instances we need the opportunity to practice as opposed to the actual job, right? And what do I mean? Are there areas within your society or your community that you can volunteer? You could deliver a good job that someone could observe, but someone would say, okay, proud, so I'm volunteering, but my rent is not going to be volunteered, right? I need to pay.
It's a very real thing.
Yeah? Yes, a real thing. So for me, and that's why I will sound like a broken record. I'll always come back to digital skills and digital knowledge. There's so much you can do with a smartphone and a little bit of digital skills. Ugandans generally are, if you've noticed, young people in Uganda are generally creative, well-spoken, very, they have a swag to their existence. And you can't monetize that aura, or the kids call it, or that persona. You can't monetize it. You can't become an ambassador of an organization. You can't go to a startup, right? There's so many they say Ugandans are the most entrepreneur in the world, or one of the most entrepreneur. If that's the case, then there's so many organizations there that would use a young person as an entry level, maybe digital marketing person, or a data entrant, or a clerk. There's so many in the digital space. We are seeing that a lot of jobs are starting to change or shift. But what is clear is that digital skills are now general. They're no longer special to a tech talent. They're no longer special to an IT talent or a data talent. They're now how you would be asked 15 or 20 years ago, do you know Excel? So today, do you have certain digital skills? So there's not one silver bullet that's going to solve our problem. But one thing is certain, there's interventions happening. So when you're online, for every 5 funny videos you watch, can the 6th and 7th be something that is either telling you about the country you're in, where are the opportunities? Something to digress a bit, but an important start. Something that is interesting, above 40% of Ugandans in employment are underutilized. That's also, for me, that's a critical statistic. So you're not only talking about unemployment, you're rather talking about people who are in employment but underemployed or underutilized.
So like the skills don't match. Like the person who went to study BCom and accounting is probably somewhere doing maybe basic administrative work, if that.
Exactly.
Or if, like what they're studied isn't necessarily translating into what the job is. And you find people selling products, in budukas and whatever. And these are actual graduates selling, thrifted clothing, which there is nothing wrong with. But I'm just saying that the
how
skills,
could we match that?
Yeah.
And for me, and that's a sweet point you bring us to, because if you are a young lady or a young man with a nice boutique, a nice duka, let's say boutique, I think with your formal education, there's a way you can literally transplant or move that education that you got from the formal understanding how you're going to run maybe a ledger in some organization. There's a way you can literally transfer that knowledge.
So it's not lost.
Your duka, and before your boutique, you are capturing your data. You have all the data of your customers. You're capturing your sales. You have a little nice P&L. This is what investors want to look at.
Okay.
Look at projects like Grow, Emioga, all these stuff that are happening in the country. I'll speak of Grow. When you think about what they're asking, they want to see data that your business has a journey that is growing, right? When you look at all even the banks, the commercial banks, when they're looking at what can we support you, they want to see what have you been doing, what can we add to make better, right? So yes, you could be, to your point of mismatched, you could be a BCom student and probably even performed to your best, but now you run a boutique. But when you run a boutique, what skill set is making you stand out in your boutique? Is it customer care? Is it how you capture your data? Because even a boutique can use one day some data, some
I think
loan.
I've just figured out what
Yeah.
it is that you're saying. So you're saying that if somebody has graduated from whatever informal education, in being a formally educated person, that it's just not good enough to sit at home and say there are no jobs, that there are places you can plug in like Collaborate that will help you skill and be digitally relevant to the world that's turning, because whether you get the job or not, the world is still going to go. Like no
That's
one's
true.
going to sit there and wait
Yeah.
for you to, to wake up
Yeah.
and say, oh yeah, let me go to Pearl and see
Yeah.
what she can teach me about this or that.
Yeah, and you speak of Collaborate, and that's a very important point that I think we should learn for our audience, especially the young people.
Yeah.
So we will speak about digital skills, we'll speak about unemployment, and we'll sometimes find ourselves grossing around the challenge, but we can't ignore that people are actually genuinely looking for jobs, right? So with platforms like Collaborate, think of it like the Uber of digital talent.
Okay.
Right? Just like you would go, a young person will go and list themselves as a rider, and a person who wants to move around the country or move around will go on Uber and get a ride.
Yes.
With Collaborate, you are able to list your skill set, and someone around the world can come and solicit, or rather, excuse my language, or apply or ask for your skills. The beauty in this, you have opened the opportunity beyond Uganda.
That's
because
it.
these are digital skills.
Yes.
Someone could be somewhere in Burundi and they are your employer. Someone could be somewhere in whichever, Sudan or the Americas, and they are
Yes.
your employer. So when we think about unemployment, I keep thinking, you have whatever skill that is. Go list yourself on the LinkedIns of this world, but I would recommend the Collaborates of this world. That no, I'm kidding. It's important that you do.
No, but we need all the help we can get. Listen, they're saying that 600,000 or 700,000 young people leave the universities every year.
And there's so many platforms that these young people could go and register themselves. There's Upwork, there's Collaborate platforms, there is Fiverr. And you can list your digital skill and you might get something. And the beauty about Collaborate, because our local talent, I mean generally in Africa, struggle on these other global platforms. Either because the name is not familiar, so they're not sure where you're from, but because the Indian market has done a good job in upskilling and positioning itself as the leaders in the digital space. Sure. A young person with a name like Gakazi might struggle to be selected on Upwork, but you could be selected on an African platform like Collaborate or TopTal in Africa. So for me, my argument then is that the challenges are going to be there. There's not going to be a utopian of a case where they all go, but we can pursue a utopian and we land somewhere. So what is that utopian we are pursuing? That everybody can acquire digital skills. So on Collaborate, you can upskill yourself. Then number 2, you can get into apprenticeship or internship. Get that skill. Build your CV. People love a good CV. And that CV could just be something practical. Number 3, list your capacity and capability. And you'll get a little gig. It might start with a paying gig of maybe 200K. Not a lot, but if you get 4 of those, how much is that? You know what I mean?
And so really what we're saying is that this could be for a job that is handed to you, but then you can also create your businesses.
Yes.
You can also be a multiplier in some ways by providing digital skills or knowledge on a digital platform.
Yes.
I really wanted to talk to you though about this BPO and KPO campaign that is happening. Nigeria, if you look at it from a pie chart in terms of Africa, Nigeria has just taken this arena by storm. You did mention India. By virtue of their numbers, whether you want to or not, you will have to work with and somebody from India who's going to handle your customer represent something. But you see, on the African continent, there seems to be a sort of segregation, or I would say sometimes even a discrimination, because countries like Uganda aren't necessarily on the radar. We see Nigeria, we see Kenya, we definitely see South Africa, maybe parts of Northern Africa. Can you tell us what the trends are going forward? If Ugandan youth want to jump on this BPO trend, we see a lot of virtual assistants. We see a lot of people going into customer service representation and many other, niches that they've gone into. But how do people get paid? How is their data protected? How are they not pushed out of the profiling because they're not from a certain geographical area and yet just as skilled? So what a lot of people do is they go to Kenya. They get a SIM card from Kenya. They register in Kenya because Kenya is actually recognized by some of these larger, organizations that have massive uptake in Africa, but kind of exclude countries like us, that we're seeing. So talk to us a little bit about the future trends with BPO work in taking up some of these, recent graduates or fresh graduates, and they've been skilled. They've gone through Collaborate. They have the digital skills. Where is the room that's made for them?
So you really do this nicely because you've mentioned something that I want us to circle back, then come back to our young people. So you mentioned India, and they're not everywhere by mistake. Right? You've said something that you can't go through a business process situation in global business without people interacting with an Indian.
Sure.
One way or the other, right? And they didn't get there by mistake. And for me, that's very valuable for us to acknowledge that India has been on this journey for nearly the last 30 years. They went on a crazy upscaling vibe or plan and strategy there.
Yes, very much so.
And they realized that, okay, we have this large population or this ballooning population, but our economies, while they're growing, they're not growing fast enough to absorb these young people. So what are we going to do? We're going to upskill our kids, make them the most competitive and most hardworking. What's going to happen is the capitalistic world is competitive. We like it or not, eventually jobs will come where they're most affordable, but delivering the highest quality nonetheless. And that's how India got where it is, that it did a high level of upscaling, marketed itself, invited the Microsofts of this world to set up and now India is where it is. And now I'll bring it to your next point, where Uganda is standing. And I think Uganda were doing a good job studying from the greats, from the Philippines, the Indians, and from the Filipinos and the Indians. We are learning something. And what we are learning is critical mass.
Yeah.
Collaborate can be good. You might have another organization in the BPO that is good. But we are past the point of individualized organizing, individualized positioning. Because to your point of the masses of you mentioning Nigeria, these people move critical mass because they eventually move to a level which Uganda now we are
the numbers, the population.
The numbers, the population, but also do we have enough organizations that can deliver that capacity? So if Microsoft comes here and says it wants to give us 80,000 jobs, do we have the capacity?
You have to ask the question, where are they? Because look, if you have a population 35 years and under, 77% of Uganda's population is 35 years and under. And if you look at, Africa, they always say, oh, please do not make Africa a monolith. It's not one country.
Yes.
But if you look at the demographics of young people in Africa, I mean, by 2050, everyone's going to be young on the continent.
Right.
We're the silent majority.
We're the judges.
We're the judges. We're the judges, but look at the judges. But anyway, so I think the point I'm saying is that you wonder, when does the learning curve awaken? I was reading an article recently where a certain country that will remain unnamed because they won't give me a visa if I bash them, and I still want to go. In their foreign policy, seriously, in their foreign policy, they said, one of their representatives said, we're looking at Africa on the periphery of business. And China is looking at Africa on the front of good business. Why? Because they know that young people are available to do A, B, and C, either from a digital point of view or, the workforce is ready and waiting. And it's no longer potential. It is actually in your face. I mean, this is why we have this no job or, in the last decade, no real jobs have been created, but the numbers are increasing. So I guess the question I'm asking is, where are the big shots?
Okay.
Where are the big shots? Yes. Where is big tech? And are they discriminating against countries?
That's a good question. But I wonder if also we are yet to be organized enough to attract that. Because these are big projects. These are people who think of it from your perspective, right? Zero it down. Don't think of it as a nation.
Let me tell you, young people right now, they're like, Sawayona. We're ready.
We're ready.
Yeah.
But look at it from a decision maker in Apple or Microsoft. He has also reportings to do. He has deliverables to do, right? When he's making his decision, he's not making it from an impact perspective. He's making it just like you and I would make a decision when we're delivering our KPIs, that I have this KPI and I must deliver it, right? Because there is a boss above me or there is a deliverable, there's a duty I hold to deliver this job. So if I'm going to outsource this big project to Africa, who is the most organized? So I want to make a very audacious argument that Uganda is not short of digital talent at all. If anything, I think also because I'm in the space, so I see everything I look around is digital talent. But we don't have a shortage of digital talent. I think what we have a shortage of, and you touched on it, is organization. And right now, that's what the government is doing. Actually, not only the government, associations, the ICT associations, the government in itself, private businesses. We've realized that we can only move the needle if we are now more organized. That, okay, we know that, for example, Collaborate has over 10,000 talent on its platform, right? There's probably someone who has more, right? But the point is there a central database that the government knows and feels confident that this is our skills index, this is the type of talent we have, this is the gap we have, this is where we begin to reskill. Now this is how we begin inviting Microsoft to.
So here's my final question then. If let's presume that exists somewhere, how safe is that data? How can I trust the government will be able to handle that data? Can it be protected? Will it be used against me? And, even though we're winding up, I do want people to walk away having listened to BEERA Sharp, to walk away sharp, to walk away and actually feel like, they made a difference in watching this. So one, the future of that infrastructure that can support young people as you see it. And then two, what a young person should do right now, like wherever they are. Maybe they've started a startup. The startup isn't going as well as it has. Maybe they've skilled. They now know how to make, let's say, shea butter, but then they don't know where to go from there. And then speak to the mindset. The mindset of a young person who is in that gray area, and maybe shed some light on some of the infrastructure that is being built, so that we can leave on a positive note, because
so we have
it's been grim.
It's been yes. So there's three areas that you've mentioned. There's the data protection.
Yes.
How does a young person truly position themselves by starting with the mindset, but also what are the plugins? What are the things on ground that a person can begin with?
Ground.
Yeah, no, that's true. But I want to speak about the data aspect from a operational perspective, because I'm not policy.
Yes.
I am not advocacy.
Yeah, you see them every day.
Yes, I'm in the business of it. I'm operating in. And I've always wondered, so let me bring it down to now my level, right? The policy people will give you the data.
Yes.
But when we speak of the data and we put the topic on the government, we forget the most important first data point, right? Think about Omuchala wa Kaduka, the mobile money lady, Mama Naka, with her mobile money. She's getting data every day, people's numbers, people's contacts. She's capturing such raw data. It could be money moving. It could be the contacts of these people. Who are they sending for? I think today, you right now when you're sending money these days, you select the purpose of the money you're sending. So think about an office. You walk into an office, you sign this data, you sign your name.
Absolutely.
And maybe
we're giving it away all the time. The time.
I wonder if, because the government actually has done its part, is doing its part. I was just listening to a podcast lately of what they're doing. Our data policy is strong.
Like data protection?
Yes,
the data
it's really strong.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is implementation. So, and for me, I believe implementation of anything to take root. The way mobile money is now part and parcel of running business. The way WhatsApp is part and parcel of running customer care and
second nature.
Business, right?
It's second nature,
because now WhatsApp business is literally running business in Africa, right? I also wonder if we can bring down the data conversation to first principles and talk to the last mile person of data. Because the government has resources to hire the smartest people, the best researchers. So then they're covered. They're good. They have good paperwork. Organizations like me who depend on high levels of data protection, we are definitely regulated and aligned. But then when I think about this other person who doesn't think of that singular data point as actual data, my question is that person protecting people's data? Who's handling clients' data? Who's handling employees and employers' data? People like us who are in the intersection of talent, technology, and employers. That transition of data, who must have access to it? Who's getting access to it? Where is it protected? Where is it kept? And for how long?
Right.
So these are not questions for the government alone. These are not questions for MTN alone or CIPESA alone.
Right.
Or for Collaborate alone. Even you as a boutique lady, collect your data, because that data, we don't know how quickly the world is evolving, but one day you could be caught on the wrong side of the regulation. And regulation for data is not bad. It becomes unprotected when the owners of the data are not involved in the conversation.
So I guess people are asking, are we protected or we are not protected?
So let me give a response that is careful,
yes.
Right? So are we protected? I don't have the access to know how people's data is protected, so I can't speak on that. But the question is, you are likely to find that your data is being kept better by the government or by a hospital that has systems, because they have the trainings, they have the understanding of how important the data is, and they know the repercussions.
I see.
Right? So my question is, you on the level of everyday transaction, the data points you're giving out, are you protected? I think that's for me, the most valid question. On the everyday, wherever you're headed, wherever you're living data, is that point protected? Because a hospital knows if I have Sophia's data and I misuse it, I could be sued. So that them, they already are, in a way, for the larger part, are trained and understanding of what could happen should they not protect it.
Yeah.
Now, the conversation should be made, it should be democratized.
Yeah.
Everybody should understand that data, we're all one way or the other, especially as businesses, touching data, collecting it, distributing it. Do we know our rights? Do we know our guardrails and what we beyond which we can't partake?
I think what I meant by mindset is, it would seem, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, with organizations such as yourself at the helm, Prism and Collaborate, you're saying that young people do have a chance at being able to support themselves and have healthy livelihoods if they apply themselves from a digital point of view, if they attach themselves to organizations such as Collaborate and many others that are pushing this conversation forward on behalf of young people. And so I think the reason I brought up the mindset issue is I think that's what you do every day, is you change the mindset of young people every day. Is it working?
It's working, but
there's a but.
There's a but.
There's a but.
I'll flip it, and it's not the but that you think. It's
okay.
So the but is, I actually think the younger generation understands it. What do they call it? Clocking it?
Yeah,
they do understand what's going on. They really understand, because they are at the center of the troubles that
they're talking to each other all the time.
Right? And they're the ones, if you talk about unemployment,
notes.
they're affected. If you're talking about creativity, they're the ones running this thing, right? Talking about tech, they're the ones using these things more than anybody, yeah? So for me, I wonder, if we think of mindset, the people who are leading these young people, we should start there. Have they observed that the world has changed, and they too need to change their mindset in how they deliver solutions for young people? The World Bank, the Ministry of Gender, the Ministry of ICT, the Collaborates, the MTNs. If you have any semblance of leadership, however small, but especially larger, if you're in policy, you're the government, you are a development partner, are you listening? I think for me, that's where the critical situation is, because we can't think and solve for people we're not talking to and we're not understanding.
That's true.
Right?
So, Pearl, generally, I consider myself, I'm in Jaja territory at this moment. So I'm going to let you close out our BEERA Sharp podcast, brought to you by CIPESA. Pearl, I want you to tell young people from a Collaborate point of view, what actionable steps they should take in the next 2 weeks to improve themselves, wherever they are. Should they call you, Where should they attach themselves? Where can they, in the next 30 days, skill digitally? And how do you support their businesses to move forward if they're already in business? Just give them a little hope because they want to hear from you. Yeah.
So if you're a young person around Africa, around the world, but our young people in Uganda, if you're listening in, here's what I would suggest. In 2 weeks, what can you do in 2 weeks? I'd say for a second there, first pause on the applications that are heavily entertainment. And stay with me on this one. First pause on that. With even these entertaining or entertainment-based platforms, you could pick up something educational, but I would recommend not to conflate the two. So pause for a bit the entertainment platforms. Sit back and think about how you want to make a change. And change doesn't come in big, large leaps and bounds. It starts very small. A change could be, I want to be in an organization and I provide the cleanest data for that organization. It could be, I want to run the cleanest code, or I want to grow my TikTok account. When you now know that it can be short term. It doesn't have to be your life purpose. It could be just something you want to change in the next several months. Sit down, go on the internet, go on your ChatGPT, go on Claude, whomever you use, right? See, I'm already referring to them as people, these AIs. But go to whomever AI that works for you and look and begin working, prompting it very diligently and prompting it what it would be, the first principles to be the best at that which you've selected. Let's say you've selected being a content creator. What does it take to be a good content creator? And don't think about things like, I need to buy the latest iPhone. You probably need it. Don't think about, I need this most expensive camera. Maybe you do, but sometimes the smallest and simplest things are the ones that lead you to your biggest breakthrough. And this could be as small as using that immediate 20 MB data to do a quick research and learn about the thing you want to do. Then go and make your, apply. Send out your applications. Could be to collaborate. Go and, to Udemy. There's so many educational platforms in Uganda and around the world. Go and find a skill that you can begin practicing on. And then this is important. I think for me, number 3 is the most important. Pick a use case and then create an actual life solution. Right? So let's say you want to put out, we were using an example of a content creator. If you are a content creator, are you able to create a video, put it out there as a trial and see the feedback people are giving? Do you have friends who can give you feedback? Can you collect that data? We were speaking about data. Can you go to the back end and look at the data of who viewed why did they view it? How long did they view it for? So those tiny little things, and the things I'm saying are actually very
practical.
And someone might be even saying, you know what? Did I stay for this? This is obvious, right? But the most obvious things are the most important things. So do the obvious, do them well, and be consistent.
Right.
Someone is watching.
Okay. So no excuses.
Yeah.
No excuses. And remember, if somebody obtains and releases your data unlawfully, it is a crime. You can actually have them reported because Uganda is really doing their best to protect your data in whatever form. As long as someone distributes or releases your data without your consent, they're committing a crime. So thank you so much for listening to us. And always remember that we're on your side. Listen, there are no excuses. Move forward and move forward boldly. And don't forget to BEERA sharp.
BEERA sharp.